Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about some more Arrowverse tier rankings. So this is video 5 of my 5-part series, and we're going to talk about the crossover events that happened in the Arrowverse. Those major, well, I figured since it is December right now, we usually would have one now, but because of the pandemic, we didn't get one this year. So I figure why not revisit a few of those old favorites of ours. So, huge spoiler alert, if you haven't seen any of the crossovers already, or if you haven't seen either Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, or Legends of Tomorrow, just a heads up, because I don't know what I'm talking about these crossovers, just what's going to slip about any of those shows. Because, again, this is a trip down memory lane for me as well. So yeah, just huge spoiler alert about that. But otherwise, let's get right into how I'm doing this tier ranking. So we have rewatch worthy. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then we go all the way down to what happened. So pretty much either I can't remember it, or maybe I thought it could have been done a lot better. Meh is going to be where it's like, it's either I kind of care or I don't, or had its moments. It's kind of like I don't mind kind of a thing. Just to give you a little idea, but because there are 6 crossovers, 2, 4, and there's only 5 sections, I'm hoping to not pass 2 in a category. There should be 1 in each category, and then there should be 1 that only has 2 in it. Because I really want an actual list. I can't just have it all be in great or all be in meh. We can't have that. We can't take the cheap road out for this. So, let's get started with this first one right here. Of the Flash and Arrow crossover, which happened, would have been in 2014 during the first season of The Flash. This one's kind of more of like, it wasn't an actual event, but more so the characters helping each other out in their respective cities. So in the Flash episode, we have Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle going to Starling City, or no, going to Central City, and then when it came time for Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin to go to Starling City, they did that on the Arrow episode. So, for that, I will have to go with meh, just because of, like, it was great for as the first, like, to really start off as, like, the first, like, setting the tone for what the crossover would be like, but knowing what they do in the next 5, it's a meh in comparison. So, we'll give it at that. Now, we have the Heroes Join Forces one. This one happened in December 2015. This is the one that did the backdoor pilot for Legends of Tomorrow. So this is where we get the introduction of Hawkgirl and Hawkman, I think. It's been a very long time, but this is the one where they introduce Vandal Savage, and then they defeat him, only for him to come back and be the season 1 antagonist for Legends of Tomorrow, but this is where they assembled. No, they didn't assemble. No, it was just Team Arrow and Team Flash that dealt with Vandal Savage. They thought they defeated him, and in order to save Hawkgirl. But then when Vandal Savage comes back later on in Legends of Tomorrow, that's when Rip Hunter assembles all the characters from the Arrow and the Flash to make the team Legends of Tomorrow. Okay, I remember that. Now, when it comes to that one, though, it's definitely better than the first crossover. So I'm gonna say, I remember this one though. There was a time travel thing. They failed the first time when dealing with Vandal Savage, and then to save everybody, Barry inadvertently went back in time to like the day before. And he had to deal with the whole time loop thing, and then this was also when Oliver found out he had a son, and just so, yeah, it was a bunch of like what ifs, like the doomsday scenario, and then they go back, they learn from their mistakes, and then they do it properly, kind of a thing. But then that's also Barry learning about the whole time travel thing when he really shouldn't, because that's in season 2 when it was starting for him to go back in time like that. So there's that. Next is the Invasion, or the Dominator one. This is where we got to introduce Supergirl into it. So with this crossover event, we had Arrow, The Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow, with only Kara for Supergirl showing up in I think it was 3 parts. Yeah, it was just the 3-parter because it was at the end of the Supergirl episode where that's where Barry and Cisco come in saying kind of we need your help kind of a thing. But this one also featured the 100th episode for Arrow. So we got a few familiar faces back during their portion of the crossover. I think it was the Flash, then it was Arrow, and then it was Legends when it comes to their episode order. But because of that, it's going to be a great. This one's based off of that because we got that whole trip down memory lane thing for the Arrow aspect, the fact that we got Supergirl coming into it, and then everybody's reaction to her because they were introducing the fact that she was coming from another alternate reality was pretty cool as well. So there's that. Plus, that's also the season when they had to deal with Savitar for the Flash. So they had a bit of some tensions happening in there. But yeah, that's pretty much season 5. Yeah. Yep, that's all I gotta say about that one. Crisis. No matter what, Crisis, let me just click to it. Crisis is rewatch worthy. I will watch that so many times, and this is why. Crisis, and I shouldn't say, to not get confused with Crisis on Infinite Earth. It's Crisis on Earth X, which is rewatch worthy. And the reason why I say this is because it was the 4-part crossover between Supergirl, Arrow, The Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow. And when I say this, the way that they had this crossover, you really could not tell which episode was meant to be for which show. Like in the previous Invasion, you can tell that okay, the one that had the Arrow with all the familiar faces coming back and paying homage as the 100th episode, you knew that one was the Arrow episode. And then you knew which one was the Flash episode. And you knew which one was the Legends episode based off of which cast was more predominant in those, in their respective sections of the crossover. When it comes to Earth X, first off, it was the huge wedding of the Arrowverse with Barry and Iris. But through all 4 parts, you really could not tell which was meant to be for which episode. Aside from maybe like the guest stars, like Tommy came back. He only came back in the Arrow portion because people who watch Arrow would know his face. So it stuff like that. But for when it came to the main cast, they didn't all strictly stick to their specific episode. I mean, everybody was part of part 1, which was Supergirl's episode, but we have them all coming because it was the prep of the wedding. And then I think it wasn't until part 3, I believe, when they're actually on Earth X, this is where we got a lot of the Arrow characters, even though that was the Flash episode. And naturally, with the wedding, you would think the wedding prep would be the Flash episode because it's Barry and Iris's wedding, but it's on Supergirl. So it's like you got all these characters from the Flash in the Supergirl portion, but not in their Flash component. So it's like when you're watching this 4-part crossover, it literally felt like a 2-hour movie. Like I could just seamlessly watch it and I could completely disregard the fact like, oh, I'm in the Supergirl episode, or I'm in the Arrow episode, or I'm in the Flash, or I'm in the Legends of Tomorrow. Yes, certain characters only appeared in their specific episode block, but for the most part of it, like, you couldn't really tell. And the fact that you had the doppelgangers from Earth X coming into it, the fact that we got a little bit of evil Oliver and evil Kara going on with it, the fact that we got Eobard's return, even though I kind of wish we got a little bit of an evil Barry, but we didn't get that on season 3 of The Flash, spoiler. But it was just very well done to the point that I even started writing a crossover with Supernatural, titled Supernatural Crisis of Earth X, I believe. I'm still in the middle of writing that. I really should check back in with that. Yeah, I probably should do that. But yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking about it because like that one's just like the best one for me. Like there. So with that though, I'm gonna go Elseworlds is next. So that one premiered in 2018. Now this one was only Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl. Legends of Tomorrow had their own little thing going on, but this introduced Batwoman. in this crossover, and this is more of like they had Barry and Oliver switching lives, so we had a lot of body swaps scenarios there, which brought a lot of comedy to it. And then in Supergirl's aspect to it, it was more of like the whole world was rewritten. So now we had a different version of like as if the Supergirl Earth 38 aspects were on Earth 1 with the rewrite. So we got a little bit of there, but this one you could tell which episode was which. So that's why it's not going to be rewatch worthy. It's either going to be great or good, just because of that. The one thing I did enjoy though was just seeing all these characters playing different versions of themselves. The fact that we got Oliver trying to tap into being Barry and Barry tapping into being Oliver, and then just seeing all the other like this alternate version of Alex. The ultimate versions of Team Arrow and Flash dealing with this other version of their team leader. And then yeah, it was just very interesting just to see I think we had evil Cisco too, or he was like crime boss Cisco, or he was more like Reverb or something. And then we got more of like Frost being in charge as opposed to Caitlin. So it was very interesting what if scenario. And then the way they brought in Reverse Flash and the Dark Archer during that hallucination fight scene was pretty cool as well. So I'd probably put it at great, if not, because now I gotta rethink, because where am I gonna put Crisis on Infinite Earths if I only have one? Okay, we're gonna move it so that this first one's gonna be what happened naturally. The backdoor pilot, I'm gonna have to do a meh. And then which one's gonna be good and which one's gonna be great, because Crisis on Infinite Earths is up here. I just gotta figure out which one it's up there for. But, I think I'm gonna have to click Elseworld as good. Because with this one, what stands out with the Dominator one is the fact that it's Supergirl interacting with all these characters for the first time in the Arrowverse. And, like, it's not just Barry she has this close friendship with. It's now she's getting to meet everybody. So it's like that introduction was just so cool how they got to do it. And this one's more of like a what if. Like, a lot of things happened, but because they reset the world, it doesn't really stick in the history of it. Plus, you also had that what happened with the Batwoman timeline thing that really confused me, because they had her established as Batwoman when the world was returned back to normal, and yet when Batwoman actually started a year later, they had it starting from the beginning. So, but yet she already knew them, so it's like confusing. So there's that. But Crisis on Infinite Earths. This one, at the moment, before I talk about it, it's going to be straddling between rewatch or great, so we'll stick it in the middle right now. But this one is the full-on crossover where you had Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman. Yeah, all 5 components, and then you got a bit of a cameo with Black Lightning. You also have cameos for a bunch of other superhero shows like Smallville coming in as well. I think because of that, that's why it's got to be rewatch worthy. I think that's probably the only reason. Otherwise, I'd stick it with great, because Earth X is going to be my top crossover. But Infinite Earths is probably, because they got so many different worlds connected to the multiverse, I think that's the tipping point for me for why it's not just great, but rewatch worthy. But with Infinite Earth, you can still tell which show is meant to be which part, which again, that kind of like detracts a little bit, since Earth X was able to make it seem like a very flawless flow for me. But yeah, I think it has to be all the different connections with the other superhero shows, and making them part of the multiverse. The fact that they got Lucifer attached to it, they got Smallville attached to it. Plus, this is also the one where they by the end of the crossover, they merged the worlds of Supergirl and Black Lightning onto Earth 1, which is now Earth Prime. So, yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it just adds to the element of, like, all the different, I guess it's kind of similar to with Elseworlds, where we got different versions. We kind of got that with Crisis when they had to go to different worlds to see different versions, which is, oh, how could I get the Kingdom Come Superman as well, played by Brandon. We got that too. Forgot about that. But yeah, so as it is right now, because I automatically know nothing's going to beat Earth X for me for that one. That's number 1. Then number 2 is Infinite Earths. Then 3 is Invasion. 4 is Elseworlds. 5 is the backdoor pilot of Legends. And then 6 is the first one of Flash and Arrow, which is just the 2 separate cases, but with the core 6 characters. So that is pretty much it. Am I surprised? Not really by what my first one was. I mean, since Earth X happened, I think I've watched it when it first came out. I think I watched it twice all the way through afterwards. And then when Elseworlds came out, it's like, nah, Earth X still does it for me. And then when Crisis on Infinite Earths came out, it's like, oh, I'm still impressed, but Earth X still does it for me, just from the flow of it. And like, just, that one you really couldn't, for Earth X, I'm sorry if I keep talking about it, but Earth X, it's like, you didn't know when characters would pop up, because for the every other crossover, it's like, if I want to see an Arrow character, they would only pop up in the Arrow section. So it's like, once that was done, it's like, oh, I'm not going to see that character anymore. But with Earth X, that was never the case. I saw Supergirl characters in Flash, in the Flash section, or I saw Arrow characters in the Legends sections. Like, it was all a mix, or a Flash in the Supergirl, it was all a mix. So I really didn't know when I would see any characters or and stuff. It flowed with the narrative of the full 4 parts. Yeah, technically 4 hours. I don't know why I called it 2 hours. It's probably because of the fact that 1 hour show is actually 45 minutes. So 2 of them would be an hour and a half. So then it's a 3-hour movie. I can't do math today. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My ranking for the crossover events in the Arrowverse. But what did you guys think? What is your own ranking? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your own thoughts about that, and just where you put your own priority when it comes to watching these crossovers. As you know from my channel, any show that crosses over with another, whether it's meant to, like the Arrowverse, it was built for that, or the Vampire Diaries Originals Legacies, like that, or if it's just crossovers that we write ourselves for fan fiction, which I'm a huge fan of reading. I'm a huge fan to see how those mix and mingle and just see how it goes. So crossover events like this, where I can actually visually see it happening before my eyes, I'm all in for that. So I just want to hear what you guys think about that as well. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. There are 4 other videos as part of my tier ranking of the Arrowverse. For Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and then the crossover event. So check those out as well. They should be posted by the time this one is. So there's that. Also, if you want to check out my Tumblr page, link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, and off-season news, all that good stuff, all in one place. Go check that out. I am behind. I'm in my last week in my 5th semester. So hopefully during the holidays, I can at least catch up on some things on Tumblr. So just stay tuned for that. Also, WordPress account, link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. A little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress once again. So guys, I'm just going to end it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day wherever you are. Please stay safe during this pandemic. Wear a mask. Be physically distant, but you can always be digitally together with people, and have a happy holidays as I'm recording it in December right now. So take care, guys. Bye for now.